Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Of the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. It is great to have you along for the ride with us today. And I have a fantastic guest mentor lined up for you today. And he's going to be talking about a topic that I am most definitely not an expert in. And that's the great thing about having a podcast. You get to talk to people that are experts in something that you are not. And you guys, as the audience, get to learn alongside me. So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Manel Gomez to the podcast. Welcome, Manel.
Thank you so much, Jason, and my absolute pleasure to be here and share a little bit of my learnings with everybody.
It's amazing to have you with me today. And you are a meta ads specialist, so running across all the meta properties, specifically Facebook and Instagram. And like I said in my opening, that is something I am not an expert in. And that is something that I think, especially retail brands in particular, they get caught in this cycle of ever escalating CAC, ever decreasing profitability, and they feel like it's a spiral that they can't get out of. They feel a essential dependence, almost like a drug dealer, right? The first hit is free or cheap, but man, those costs just continue to escalate to the point where they're almost unsustainable for a lot of retail businesses. And for me, who does primarily B2B e-commerce consulting, I get a lot of D2C brands coming to me saying, we got to diversify. We have to establish some strategic wholesale channels because CAC at retail is eating us alive. So maybe walk us through some of the evolution of how Meta for a long time, or Facebook ads, for example, for a long time were optional. Most brands could get away with maybe just running some Google ads, maybe doing some organic SEO, maybe doing some posts on Reddit or some other platforms or X or things like that. But now paid and performance acquisition feels like an essential component of retail growth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100% agree. And as you said, it is an essential component, which means one of the many that you need nowadays. So I do agree that organic reach, let's say Instagram, TikTok, reaching your followers every time, it's just getting more and more challenging. But at the same time, paid is getting more challenging. So there's not one way. I'll just focus on organic and I'll just collaborate with a couple of influencers, post on my Instagram, and then I'm going to go viral and get a lot of traffic to my website. It's just not doable. And the one thing that paid ads brings in is predictability, right? So you know how much you're going to spend and you can approximate based on historical data how much you're going to get out and how much traffic you're going to get. So you can predict a little bit and have cash flow calculations, which is something pretty important once you work at a certain volume of stock and planning all of these things with credit. It's important. So you cannot depend on organic, you cannot depend on paid. You gotta have both nowadays. So it is a component, one of the many pieces, and depending on the brand, depending on the scale, depending on the goal, you're gonna depend more or less on Meta specifically, which is an acquisition channel as many others. So yeah, that's been a little bit the...
It's a little scary if I was a new retail brand just starting up, or maybe even I was a pure play e-commerce brand, especially if I was just a Me Too brand, meaning I'm a drop shipper or I'm just selling the same stuff as everybody else. I've got no curation. I've got no exclusive lines. I've got no exclusive products. I've got no patented products. I've got no designed products. I've got no even white labeling products. Is a little bit better than just being a Me Too retailer, drop shipper of somebody else's products. And I think the one scary downside of e-commerce becoming easier to do and easier to get up and running, it's easier than ever before to start an e-commerce business, but it's harder than ever before to do so profitably. And I think this is the 100%. Trap that so many people fall into. And I try to spend a lot of time on Reddit answering questions, helping people, trying to give guidance and help. And there's at least 5 to 10 posts per day in the e-commerce subreddit about, hey, I started this new print-on-demand business, or I started this new drop shipping business, or I started XYZ business because this is a passion I have, or whatever it might be, or an AI art business, or whatever it might be. And 99% of the time they say, hey, look, I've dumped 5,000 to meta ads. I've tried to optimize my website. I've done this, that, and the other thing. And I just can't figure out why. Basically, I feel like I got zero return. Maybe I got a couple of sales, but nothing even to cover the cost of
Yep.
my ads. And yet when you go to their website, there's no backstory, there's no history, there's no contact details other than a contact form, there's no trust marks, there's no product reviews, there's literally nothing to tell me that this is a legitimate business. And if I have the choice, even if that website, for example, and I'm a huge Amazon shopper, like I shop on Amazon massively, especially here in Mexico. It is, e-commerce is dominated by three large marketplace players here: Mercado Libre, Amazon, and Coppel. Those are the big three heavy hitters here in Mexico. And considering that only 9% of all retail sales here in Mexico are e-commerce, the fact is, of that 9%, like greater than 85% of that is owned by the majors. So only a tiny fraction of the rest of that revenue is going to independents. And so I think if you're going to compete today with the majors, with your own, even your own D2C website, man, you got to be at the top of your game. It's not, we used to call e-commerce the field of dreams. Build it and they will come. It is not the field of dreams anymore. It's more the field of nightmares is what I like to call it for most people.
Can be, yeah. But the way I see it is I did economics, and eventually in a capitalist market, profits go to zero. With healthy competition, profits go to zero because everybody is willing to minimize profit. And eventually what used to be a 60% profit margin market is nowadays a 15 to 20 in good cases. So that's what competition brings. I remember I started running ads in 2017, I think 2016, 2017, back in university. I had no idea, and I was getting a higher ROAS than I'm getting today in a few of the accounts. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was selling fitness products, drop shipping with a couple of friends, and the ROAS was just there, but I was not surprised. There's a 12 ROAS or a 9 ROAS. No idea what's going on. It's just like a ROAS. Now I see it. It's like crazy times. And there were brands, 2015, 2016, 2017, especially in Spain, we had these sunglasses brands like Menel, Hawkers, that then they exited for millions and millions, but they built those brands 2015 purely from Facebook ads. And 2015 to 2019 are the times where you could just build a brand completely based on Facebook ads. Start running that, just put a product image, maybe a couple of cool shots that you hired a photographer. Done. Nowadays, no, it's just exactly what you mentioned. You need way more stuff, many more things running and clicking at the same time. The machine is just more complicated, and people got smarter. That's the other way. That's the other thing. The customer is way more demanding. The customer, because Amazon and all these big platforms, they have network effect, which means they just get better with time, more reviews, they get better prices, better deals. So they grow huge and fast. If you start from scratch, you're competing with giants. So it is definitely difficult, and you have to basically check all the boxes. So it's definitely tougher now than it's ever been. But that's a capitalist market. Only the best will survive, only the best will enter. And that's the reason why I think this podcast is very successful, and people are looking actively for information and training. And that's really good. That's necessary. But it didn't used to be back in the day. And COVID was like a rebirth of e-commerce, and it became easy again. People are at home, conversion rate is amazing. Let's just scale. I push a Chinese product random that I found yesterday on TikTok, push it in a different country, works. Not anymore. So yeah, that's a little bit the direction we're heading to.
It reminds me a little bit. So I had my own e-commerce pure play business back. I started it in 2003 with a friend of mine, and we ran that business until 2010. And I distinctly remember when I started out, I didn't know anything about Google. Like I was an idiot. And basically it was 5 cents a click, and it was like turning on a tap. It was like an on-off switch. Basically, put some money into Google, get like 10x or 20x or 50x or 100x back out again. And it was, you could be an idiot like me at that time and make money. I was like, sure, I'm a pretty smart guy, but I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination. The UI was super easy to use. It was very easy to learn with very little training. You didn't need an agency to help you run effective Google Ads campaigns. Now, even the interface, it feels Google, Meta, all the major players, it feels
Yeah.
like they have so complexified their technology, even down to GA and GTM and everything else. It feels like all of the major gatekeepers on the internet have so complexified their technology that now you almost have to have a dedicated agency partner or freelancer or whatever it might be working with you so you don't lose your ass on those platforms, because it feels like it needs to be almost like a full-time job as opposed to something you can dabble in and be successful with.
Yep. And it used to be like that. It used to be the CEO of the brand just posts, uploads some stuff, leaves it there, it's making money constantly. And nowadays, the typical structure for a brand is either in-house or with agencies or freelancers. They've got a specialist for every one of these platforms, which is a pretty big expense every month to maintain the whole thing. But it becomes necessary. So with competition, you need a specialist, you need the best of the best strategies, or somebody implementing that, or somebody coaching you on that. You need that. Otherwise, the other guy has it, they're doing a better job, they eat you alive. And so
It's just the way that it is, right? Suck
it
it
is
up.
a tough market. Yeah, it is a tough market. And I'm lucky to be a little bit of a paranoid when it comes to looking for the hack, looking for the thing, looking for the edge, like looking for the extra thing that can give me the little advantage over the other people, to the point that, just to give you a quick example, I analyze the data on Shopify to spot the historical, based on the last 2 or 3 years of data, historical best day of the week, based on conversion rate, based on volume of purchases. Even if it's a Sunday, for example, for a fashion brand, it is a Sunday, 3 to 9 p.m. every single Sunday. So every single Sunday, I work. At 3 p.m., I push budgets, get a lot more traffic, capitalize on this historical pattern. 9 p.m., decrease budgets, done every single Sunday. 90%, unless I'm traveling or something. So if I'm doing this, I'm raising the level of competition. So somebody who on their peak day are doing nothing, they're missing out. Somebody's taking that extra profit. So that's the level you have to take that. And even more that I have not yet discovered, but somebody for sure knows, you gotta look for those little things. And the other point is, you have to become really good at sales. Because the typical ad, when it comes to a creative, it used to be like a product image, white background, and just something like an offer. But nowadays, it's one, it just doesn't work, and people just scroll past through that. It doesn't generate a reason for it to get a click. So that doesn't work, and people have to assume that. So then what they have to do is, but it's tough, right? And that's the reason why CAC is going up and it's becoming more difficult. You really have to dig deep into sales and do a lot of research and your customer. And the typical thing is that everybody said, and they are boring, but they have to be done. Otherwise, you're not selling actively to somebody, you're just posting an ad, but that's not sales. So it's the name of the game nowadays.
And do you think, in your opinion, because you've been doing this for a while now, do you think that Facebook has gone too far in terms of ad placements, locations, instances of an ad? It used to be they were in feed. Now every single video, literally every single video that I watch on Facebook, gets interrupted within the first 30 seconds. Hey, ad is incoming with the little circular yellow thing. And I now stop watching those videos and I scroll to the next video so that I don't have to see the ad. That is the most interruptive, in my opinion. And I don't know when they started doing this, but it seems, I don't know, maybe in the last 12 months or something, they started doing these autoplay ads in videos. And in the base of the video, they now cover up the description, they cover up the playhead with another ad that's permanently there unless you hit the collapse button. It is the most interruptive ad format I think I've ever seen on Facebook, and I think it's shitty, because I actually, if I happen to not get to it fast enough and the ad plays, I hate brands that run ads that way, because to me, they're completely interrupting my social experience as opposed to me opting into consuming an ad and clicking on an ad. So do you think that Meta, in an ever-growing quest for more ad revenue, that they're actually destroying the very social experiences that they rely on to drive ad demand?
Short answer would be yes, but not intentionally, right? So of course they have to make more money. And that's through advertisers. But the advertiser is just going to decrease their ad spend if the CPM is too high, because then the CPC is too high and then the numbers don't add up. And so they have to keep the CPM at a certain standard. Let's say standardized data, Spain under $10, let's say $5 to $10, Germany 10 to 15, US 15 to 35.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to 40, but let's say in a normal scenario, 15 to 35. If they standardize a CPM for everybody of 60 in the US, they're going to make less money. And it's a publicly traded company, right? So every year they have to grow.
Yes.
And so they either raise the CPM for everybody, or they just squeeze in more placements to maintain the same level of CPM, but make more money. And so they need to keep on doing it. But the algorithm thing, more and more, they are switching the algorithm to optimize for, like, to give a premium to those ads that generate engagement and that resonate with users, instead of giving a premium to the ads that have a high bid and a high level of ad spend. So the algorithm is the auction of Meta, which is bid, estimated action rate, and ad quality, is, I think it's prioritizing more the ad quality than the other two metrics. And so I was watching a podcast a couple of days ago about creatives, and they would mention the necessity to blend into the organic experience of the user instead of just interrupting it. And that's a necessity, and Meta has to fix it. I 100% agree with you. So it's almost got to look like it's not an ad, and really blend in. I'm not saying make a UGC video and there's a person making a sales pitch. That's not blending in. You're doing UGC, but you're not blending into my experience. Blending into my experience is, I would take it to the extreme of copy the memes that I'm consuming and put your product inside the meme. And then I'll be like, this brand's so funny with this product, with the memes that I'm actually consuming as a man with my age and things that I like specifically. Oh, phenomenal. Theoretically, the algorithm is designed so that brands are incentivized to do the meme thing, because the meme thing is getting engagement and high resonance, and then lower CPMs, higher CTRs. Theoretically, the algorithm has to optimize for that, but I guess it takes time.
Very interesting you should say that, because it's so interesting you mentioned memes specifically. I was actually at a friend's party the other night here in Puebla, and one of his friends who was at the party, I was talking to him about what he does. He owns a meme agency. That is all they do. The only thing they do as an agency is make memes. They have a 25-person team just making memes. That's all they do. And he said he has like a $30 million a year business. That blows my mind. But he's been doing it for a long time, so he's very good at it. He's very good at building his team, very good at understanding current culture, and like he's actually hired, believe it or not, by, it's not just brands that hire him. It is, for example, one of his biggest client bases are political campaigns, to make memes for them, to promote their party or their candidate, and to also slag off competitor candidates. And so he has found little niches where he's like the only player in that niche. And it's so interesting. That meme game is, I oftentimes wonder, where are these freaking memes even coming from? It feels like there's a meme factory out there. There are, and there are agencies that do only this. So it's crazy.
In the podcast, they would also mention a very interesting topic, and it's real. Nowadays, well, let's say the way it used to work, Instagram, let's say, you log into Instagram and you see what your friends are doing, and maybe 10% of influencers. Like you would follow a couple of influencers and your friends eating pizza with their dog, etc. Nowadays, they switched Meta and they switched Instagram to a discovery platform. So now as you log in, you will see 30% of your friends, but then the rest is suggested content that you might like, which the majority is memes. So as an advertiser, I'm thinking, how do I leverage these trends, memes, and educational stuff, and how do I fit my product into this? And that's social media intelligence, and you need it as an advertiser. It's just one of the elements that we mentioned before that just has to click for DTC advertising to work nowadays. So what is going on in my market? What are they consuming on social media? How can I blend in my product and my content as an ad into that thing? That's it. And try to fit there and try to get the CTR and the conversions, etc. But don't interrupt that much because they're going to hate you eventually.
Yeah, that's right. I think you make a good point, which is that effectively brands have to figure out a way, instead of interrupting popular culture, to become part of popular culture and to integrate in with popular culture and leverage popular culture and keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. And
Totally.
the biggest brands in the world, especially like fashion brands or the high premium luxury brands, for example, if you're a Gucci or you're a Louis Vuitton or something like that, other brands will give you brand exposure. Just like in memes, you'll have a Chihuahua carrying a Louis Vuitton bag, for example, or a Birkin bag. So the biggest brands in the world, they automatically get included in pop culture without having to spend a dime. But non-major brands, non-household names, they have to insert themselves into the cultural conversation, don't they?
That's the point. Yeah, very well made.
And where do you think this ends up? Because it feels to me like if Meta has to keep growing share value, which they're legally obligated to do, they're already a beast. However, they're starting to get, there's this whole new level of competition from Amazon, now the third largest ad network in the United States after Google and Meta. And also, when we think of retail media networks, they are now all of a sudden starting to put pressure on traditional digital paid performance advertising. So there's some new mediums, there's some new placements, there's some new players. And I think it is going to eventually, not anytime soon, but it feels like eventually it is going to start putting pressure on Meta and Google to up their game and to make the value that they bring to the table better and more accessible and maybe more like it, a little bit more like it used to be in terms of the value.
Yeah, but the question is, at this scale, is it doable? There are millions and millions of advertisers. The question is, can everybody succeed? It is tough to say, but we've never had so many advertisers actively running ads in the platform, and the level of users is limited. So the things Meta can do is, number one, increase the time spent in the platform per user, which maximizes the ads that get delivered to that user in a specific day. So make people more addicted to the platform. That's number one, and they do it very well. Can they make me consume 4 hours of Instagram a day? I guess it's difficult, but I know they will try to, because that means more money. So more ads per user, which is, if I spend from 1 hour to 4 hours a day on Instagram, I'm consuming more ads. But if I'm still consuming the same amount of time on Instagram as last year, don't put me more ads. That's what gets people annoyed.
Yes.
Because now every other story is an ad.
Yes.
Not too good. If I decide I'm addicted and I decide you make the platform so good and so relevant, I decide to spend more time on it, I can serve me more ads. I deserve it. Just, okay, it's fine because I'm consuming the platform. Cool. But if I'm consuming the same time and you put more ads, so they got to balance the customer experience. So that's the way number one to solve the problem. They will expand placements. So virtual reality is just going to be another placement. But I think that's for an advertiser to successfully run ads in a virtual reality environment from Meta Horizon, at least 2 years, 3, I would say, minimum, because there's got to be adoption of the tool. And then once you have the network effect that everybody has it and everybody's addicted, then you put the ads. That 3 years would be optimistic, to be honest. So that's just going to be another way of increasing the placements. And the other thing, I mean, I've never heard of this, but now I had it in my mind, is the same way that, for example, Klaviyo and the different tools for email, they charge you per email sent. The reality is like a monthly subscription based on how many people. Okay, so it will get to a point that if you want to reach your followers, you will have to pay.
Yes. Yes. Regardless of whether you run an ad or not.
Yeah. Now it's free. I would say brands use it as much as you can. Because think about the problem they are creating. imagine you're a brand and you have 100,000 followers on Instagram. It took you 7 years to get to 100K. It's a family, it's a community. It took you so much time. Slowly, they are killing your organic reach. That's already painful. I would like to reach at least 50K on my stories, but I'm reaching 7K, 7,000 people out of 100,000, pain in the ass.
Wow.
I guess Meta in this scenario would come to you and be like, would you like to reach almost all of them? Yeah. Then this is the payment plan. And you might subscribe to something. So they are increasing the revenue without having to touch the CPM or the ad placements or anything. So that's another thing. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's just like a prediction that I have. But they have to solve organic reach, because it's really a pain in the ass that you have 100,000 followers and only can reach 7% of them. It's a real pain in the ass. Many brands are really willing to pay for that reach because it's qualified impressions. It's people who follow you. So it's amazing.
They've already chosen to connect with you. They're interested in what you have to say. They're just not seeing it. And so with an ad, I'm now potentially showing it to some people that are following me, but up to 70, 80% of it is to people who are not following me. And so in that sense, it's a cold ad. And sure, you can do some targeting and some other things, some demographic targeting, but even the targeting options now with privacy are decreasing. And so it feels like we're showing ever more less relevant ads to the wrong audience. And accessing our organic audience that we built up, sure, it's going to piss brands off, but at least if they could guarantee presentation in front of their followers, that's a big deal.
And the trick is going to be that it will not appear as an ad. Because when it says sponsored, when it says sponsored, it just turns people off. But if it doesn't say sponsored, but you're still basically forcing delivery by paying, phenomenal. So that might happen. We will see. But definitely, they got to make the revenue go up, as you said. So
somehow, some way. So let's talk TikTok. Let's talk TikTok shops. Let's talk AppLovin, because I'm hearing from the market, AppLovin is one of the best new hyped ad network platforms, getting in front of gamers, getting in front of mobile users, etc., in a unique way. That feels, but as I understand it, and I've never used AppLovin, so I don't know. I think you have to have something like a minimum of $100,000 a month ad spend. They base it actually on your current Meta ad spend, and I think you either have to be spending 10 or 100,000. You have to be sending some kind of obscene amount with Meta already, even to qualify to have an AppLovin ad account. And so they will look at your current ad spend to pre-qualify you, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to curate advertisers, and they're trying to say, we only want advertisers that know what the hell they are doing and are not going to fatigue our users with crap ads. And so if you're already spending $100,000 a month on Meta ads, you probably at least know what you're doing enough to continue to justify spending that much on ads. So it's an interesting filter to put your ad buyers through, is to say, how much do you spend on Meta today? Because unless you're a big Meta ad spender, we don't want you.
Yep. I don't know. It's because with TikTok, everybody had huge expectations. In my opinion, it didn't turn out that well. I know a lot of people that make crazy money with TikTok ads, but I know more people that failed with it. And I guess AppLovin has founders have really properly thought about the platform and to solve the problems that are going on Meta platforms. TikTok Shop is the future, but TikTok ads, I'm not that sure. Maybe with more maturity of the platform, or we will see, because right now when it comes to direct conversion, if you're looking for ROAS, it's very limited to a specific type of product that can be bought on the platform directly without massive retargeting and stuff like that. And so the difficulty of TikTok ads is just, one, it forces you to have so much creative volume and refresh the ad so often. And two, you can only succeed with a very specific type of product, which might change in the future. And then TikTok Shop, I think they're launching it in Spain this month.
Okay.
Or the next month. Or the next one. I don't know. That's going to be interesting. That's the future. And I'm going to say, Meta is being left behind. 2 years ago, I was in the beta test of the Instagram checkout. So you could buy directly from Instagram. And they are pushing, last year they gave me credit to, basically they usually finance 70% of a test or 25% depending on the case. But they give you money, they give you credit to make a test so that they have data from you. So they use you to make a test of a new tool. And I was testing the website and shop destination that basically splits traffic to your website and to your Instagram shop or Facebook shop. So it looks like they're trying to get into it, but not really. And yeah, I'm really into TikTok shop and love it. It's social commerce. It's other people selling your product. It's phenomenal. And Meta is looking pretty slow. So we'll see.
Yeah, and haven't they, because originally they were going to force brands, Meta was going to force brands to create an in-app purchasing experience, not just an in-app shopping experience. They're going to force everybody to migrate off of the redirect model into the in-app purchasing model to where they could directly monetize every purchase that went through the platform, as opposed to simply charging for the ad that drove. But they've since rolled that back, haven't they? And that's the problem with all these Western apps. There's no app today in the West that does effective in-app purchasing. In-app shopping, yes. Yeah. In-app purchasing, no. In Asia, it's the norm. In-app purchasing is the norm. You've got your wallet, you've got your payment details, you've got your delivery details, you got everything stored in the platform. So why wouldn't you want to execute the transaction in the platform as opposed to being redirected to the home page or to the product page of the product you were looking at, and then still have to add it to your cart, still have to go to checkout, still have to put in all your details? What a ridiculous friction to introduce, right? Why do you think it is that Meta is so shit at creating an in-app purchasing experience, given their unlimited resources?
Yeah, I think they play the conservative game. And if you see with any little update, because think about it, if you fuck it up big.
Yeah.
And so
multiple billions of dollars big.
Exactly. And if you, first of all, you lose a lot of billions. And second, you will piss off like big advertisers and make them lose money. So not only Meta is losing money from, the advertisers are not spending, but also you're creating an opportunity cost to me that is huge. Who's going to give me the 50K a day that I had to do today to pay the salaries and the infrastructure and the logistic? And nobody. And so it's very risky. So every time they launch new stuff, say the Advantage Plus feature, which is a new feature for campaigns with artificial intelligence, etc., it took them so long to release the thing, and then they released that to 10% of the accounts. And please make a test. And it's super slow. I guess the backend of Meta is an absolute monster. But I really, apart from that, I really don't know. Because also, this Instagram checkout thing, it might exist in Meta Asia. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they might
Well, they have pressure
from
WeChat. And God forbid WeChat ever catch on outside of Asia, because it is the super app to rule them all. And it does everything in the app. Ads, purchasing, wallet, everything. Everything happens. You never leave the app. And I know, because my wife is Asian. I know WeChat is used for all interfamily communication, business communication. It facilitates transactions between businesses. It's a beast. It's an absolute beast.
Where's lower in the West?
Yeah. And even live shopping all happens on WeChat. It feels to me like the live shopping experience, obviously with Whatnot and a few of the other major players coming to market. Do you think 2025 is finally the year when live shopping actually takes hold in the West outside of Asia?
No.
Okay. I
would
feel
like
the same.
I would like to, but for example, based on what, for example, Meta is doing, billions of users, the users are not incentivized to go live. So I used to watch a lot more live videos on Instagram 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Nowadays, they are either not making them, or they don't promote them, or me as a user, they have to roll this out organically first, get the user
hooked,
used to it. Yeah, exactly. And because that's what they do always. Get the user hooked, and after that, now you can shop, now you can buy. Now, yeah, exactly. So they focus now a lot on minimizing the TikTok competition through Reels, having a really good structure with Reels, incentivizing the user to make Reels. That's another ad placement, which was also smart. So minimize TikTok competition, keep the market share, and then have a new placement for ads. Now they are rolling more Reels ads. So if I check the breakdowns, Reels ads was like a 10% of my total ad spend. It's very small. And there's an issue here, because the users are spending, I don't know, there was a metric, 70 to 80% of their time on Reels. But my ad spend on Reels is 10% of my total. So stupid, just for you to see how slow Meta is. So now they have to roll out more Reels ads and see how the user reacts and do they skip it or not. So in their communication, or every time I go to an event by Meta, you have to try Reels ads. You have to make more videos, but make them native. Make them, they're super concerned. Yeah. So now they will start with the Reels ads, but it took them like 2.5 years.
Wow.
It's just slow. Yeah. So
What
I
do
would
you
like.
think sorry to interrupt. What do you think their vision is with Threads? Because to me, I'm not going to install a second app, right? I'm not going to do it. I just won't do it. And I wonder because they keep pushing me to do it, because they keep putting in my Facebook feed and my
the
Instagram feed,
suggestion.
they're putting Threads. But then when you tap on it, it immediately takes you to the app to install it. It's again, totally horrible experience. So I wonder if at some point they will simply integrate Threads natively into Facebook and Instagram, either in Instagram maybe as a completely separate tab at the bottom of the interface, to where you can just access Threads as a feed of Threads directly within the app, as opposed to your normal visual feed, to have a Threads feed within Instagram, and then also natively integrate Threads into your Facebook feed. Because they're already doing that anyway. So why wouldn't I be able to interact with a thread in my Facebook feed? If I can see the thread, why can't I interact with it? And in fact, this is a well-trodden path for them, because they're already starting to put a ton of Instagram content in my Facebook feed, but it forces me to interact with that content, forces me to go to Instagram to interact with that content, to make a comment, etc. So I personally think that disjointed connection between the two, to try to force you into an unnatural pathway to access that content, a non-native pathway, feels clunky to me. What are your thoughts?
It is, but I have to say that I fell victim and I downloaded it through a really good clickbait, because they suggested I was in one of these Instagram sessions that I was consuming Bitcoin stuff. And then they happened to match my search with a suggestion they basically suggest like a carousel of different threads.
Yes.
And then there was like one with a super crazy clickbait, something dramatic about Bitcoin. And then I was like, I have to watch this. And I had the app experience 3-4 times. I was like, click, sends me to download the app. I don't want to download anything. Ciao. But this time I was like, I have to download it. So I finally did. What is their intention? Do they want to grow it? I'm not sure, because there's a thing that Meta does really well and really smart, which is they cancel competition pretty fast.
Yeah.
So do they want to grow? I don't know. Do they want to keep market share? For sure. So every time there's a thread, TikTok, Reels, Twitter, Threads. And so it seems to me that they only react when the potential threat is big enough. Live shopping, in-app purchasing experience. They think, this is just in Asia. It's not coming here soon. So it's let somebody make the first mover
advantage, so to speak, or at least get cut.
Yeah. So start the wave. And then once the wave is moving, I'm going to come with my billions and my engineers, and I'm going to build it up super fast and just deliver it to all Meta users. But they don't want to be the first one. So that's when you ask me about live shopping, Meta doesn't want to be the first one. So there's going to have to come like a platform that will then be acquired by Meta.
Maybe it's Whatnot, or it could be anybody.
Yeah. So Meta will acquire the platform most likely and just build it in their platform. So that's
their way. Dominate by either clone your competition out of existence or just buy them. One of the two.
Yep.
Wow. And it feels Meta and Zuck is a beast. Don't get me wrong. I have so much respect for the business that he's built, and whether you love him or whether you hate him, you cannot deny that he has built an absolute monster of a company that is just almost unassailable at this stage. But it feels in many respects like they're out of ideas. They're still spending billions of dollars per quarter in product development. They're still spending billions of dollars a quarter on staffing, and half the time, I don't even know. Sure, they pivoted a lot of money away from XR to AI, and but again, My argument is their AI integration is totally clunky. It is the worst AI integration ever. When I'm scrolling through Facebook, oftentimes I will accidentally hit one of the AI feedback suggestions just when I'm scrolling, and it will open up Messenger, right, to give me the AI recommendation or the feedback or the answer to the question or whatever it is. And I'm like, then I have to go hit the back button. I have to go back to my feed. Then it's moved me somewhere else in the feed in the meantime because it's refreshed my feed. It is a completely shitty AI experience. So I understand they've got Llama and they're doing some things behind the scenes and open sourcing it and making that to where other people can build on top of their LLMs, which is great. When you're behind, what do? You open source. When you're ahead, you close source. That's the way the whole game works. So I get it.
Yeah.
But I wonder what your thinking is around, because they clearly want to make Meta an AI destination, meaning they want people to use it for everything, for answering questions. They basically want it to be the new Google, the new ChatGPT. They want it to be everything all wrapped into one, plus your social experience. And I get that. But it feels like the interface is so shitty right now that actually it's putting me off using Meta AI rather than encouraging me to use it in select strategic moments. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Same as with any new thing that Meta has to release. It's shit at first until the billions of users are improving it, they get feedback and then it gets better. But it's happened with every single thing they roll out. And I see it more as an advertiser. With every new thing, it's shitty at first. And to me, it's a little bit of a dark box because they have convinced all advertisers that the Advantage Plus products with AI are going to increase conversion rate and are going to increase CTR and are going to proven on these two studies. It's like they have zero statistical significance because it's just two brands that happen to use Advantage Plus and they increase their. Yeah, but what were you doing before? Because before you were doing shit. This is what a study.
Anything would improve it, including a human being.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, to advertisers, they are starting to force the artificial intelligence improvements. So first they give you the suggestion, like for example, now with ad copy with text, you input a piece of copy, text, buy these shoes today at $42.99. And then down below, they automatically give you 3 suggestions to improve that copy. Suggestions now. But all Meta suggestions become mandatory once they fully release it, whatever. So it will get to a point that you input 1 copy and you are forced to have 5 copy variations made with AI, whether you like it or not. That's also going to happen with images. Now they give you the suggestions. We will put a border, or we will put like a frame, or we will amplify the images, change this, change that. You're like, no, don't do it. But it's a pain in the ass to turn off because you have to open a pop-up, search the drop-down, turn it off. It will get to a point that it will be mandatory. And then with video editing, they will edit your video to fit the user experience. So if you input a 1-minute video, they'll be like, which sometimes it's not bad. If somebody's on the underground, they cannot load a 1-minute video because it's too heavy. They'll chop that to 10 seconds. Yeah. But then if somebody's in the sofa with Wi-Fi, they'll just put the 1-minute video. Yes, but I want to have control as well of my message, because that's eventually what makes somebody click or not. And so if I give you full control of it to a machine,
not fully, right? And the question then, what you just said begs the question: is it their goal ultimately to eliminate the need for brands to have somebody like you helping them with is that their goal? Is like that their grand vision is to say, hey, don't go and hire a Meta ads agency, give us that money and our tooling will do it all automatically for you?
I think so. I think this is the direction. But not from Meta specifically. How can I say this? For example, I think Meta is interested in me pushing to the limit, or at least I see it when I go to the events. I've got, let's say, private managers from the headquarters. I've got 3 people that work directly with me, give me a little bit of extra info. They want to talk to me more than they want to talk to the founder or the employees, because they know that I'm going to try to spend as much money as I can, and my incentives are really aligned with them. And I'm going to apply all the new stuff, etc. So not that they want to remove this, but they want to remove the need for human intervention when it comes to dealing with the machine. And so that's media buying. And I'm really a fan of media buying because that's like part of my strategy to find the edge. It's media buying. It's manual bidding. It's raising budgets at specific moments in the week, as I told you before. Like there are some hacks in media buying that really change an ad account structure, depending on the market you're in, depending on the industry, etc. And then the other part is the content, the copy. So one is more like the trader and the other one is the artist. They want to remove the trader. Why? Because the trader is annoying to the platform, to the algorithm. You're forcing things. You're putting a small cost cap. You're putting a very high bid cap. You're putting this, putting that, changing budget when I don't want it to be changed. To give you an example, on Black Friday, what I do is I scale on an hourly basis. So every single hour, depending on profitability, I raise budget or decrease. That's super annoying to the platform because they want to have.
They want to just own it. They want to tell you what to spend.
Yeah. And in the event, I ask people that work in Meta, what do you think about this strategy? I've been really successful with it in the last 4 years in periods of high demand. Wow, no, don't do it. Don't do it. It's really not going to work. It's against the platform. They don't like it. No, don't do it. But I'm successful with it and I can take higher risks because if 1 hour is bad, I can correct it. No, set the budget high since the beginning of the day and don't touch it. Doesn't make sense. Like it's not optimal. So
well, it makes sense for them, but it doesn't make sense for you or your brands.
Exactly. So I'll keep on doing media buying as much as I can to find opportunities until it's erased. And then I'm going to focus, I do now, but I'm going to focus more and more on the image, the creative, the message. Eventually, if I would look at it from the lenses of perfect capitalist market, eventually you would only have product and you would not have the marketing. You would only have product and that's it. And people decide if they want to buy it based on price and the product itself. So, but we'll see. Because in 2015, if I compare it also, the success of a brand would be how much hours do they spend in the Power Editor, uploading Excel sheets and testing audiences. That's really not strategical. You don't have a better product. So they just want the better products to be sold and the shitty products to not be sold. But we're still in a position on Meta that you don't need necessarily the best product to have the most success in your industry because you still have the marketing aspect, the media buying, the creative. So again, good window of opportunity in the next 3 years, but it's just going to go down. So that's the perspective.
If you thought it was bad now, wait for another 3 years and this is still a shrinking window of opportunity that brands can still capitalize on if they've got a great product, that's selling it at a competitive price, and they can work with an expert like you. If I'm a new startup, and I come to you as a brand new startup, but I'm reasonably well-funded, I've got enough to be able to hire somebody like you and have a decent media budget. What is the first thing you would recommend I do with a brand new brand to seed the market, to even let people know I exist, to start generating some hype, some buzz, not even necessarily sell product, but just to start getting some brand recognition, to start penetrating the market, put myself on potential customers' radar, become part of the social conversation, becoming part of the cultural conversation? Where do I start as a new brand these days?
Yeah, I would do two things. Being funded, the two things. The first one is you have to get awareness. You have to get into the market and just get visibility. So you would do that with two actions. Action number one is reach campaigns or view content campaigns, which are campaigns that are optimizing for objectives that are just cheap. So the CPM is decent and you're reaching a lot of people with a smaller budget. No conversion to purchase campaign. So spend money there with really good ads, work on them, videos, images, etc. That's number one. Number two, if you have money, I would collaborate with small creators that have a couple of viral videos on TikTok and Instagram that will not necessarily ask for any big payment up front. And this filter of I will pay you a lot or very little depending on the followers you have is just a stupid filter nowadays because organic reach is shit. Yeah. And so you can have 11 million followers, but as you post a video, it gets to a completely new audience. So it's about your capacity to go viral, not your followers. And so I would collaborate with 5, 10, 15 small content creators to just expand the product and maybe give them a commission or something like that. And then on the other side, I would make a really big effort into learning how to sell my product. It's one of the biggest problems that I see, and especially brands at a high level. Like Facebook ads eventually is online, is being an online salesman at scale. Like you're just selling products. But because it looks so accessible and you just have to post an image and a button and people buy, it has that perception, but you really need to know like how to sell and who you're selling to and how they want to be sold specifically, given the age, given the customer profile, etc. How do they want to be sold? Once you figure that out, you have to figure out the social media intelligence. What are they consuming now? What is trending now? And I adapt myself to that. And then only after that, I would focus on the media buying, the tricks, the manual bidding, the strategies after that. So reach small creators, figure out how to sell, make the content based on that, and then scale with media buying to stabilize ROAS and bring a lot of traffic in.
I love it. I love it. Listen, this has been a fascinating conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn more, I'll link to your LinkedIn profile, of course. But other than LinkedIn, how do you like people to reach out to you and find out more about your services or have a chat to you about Meta,
Yeah, for
have a
sure.
chat to you about performance marketing full stop and where the best maybe opportunities are for these brands that don't know where to go next? How do they get a hold of you?
Any question that you guys have, you can reach me on my Instagram. It's manel.gomez, or YouTube, but YouTube is just the content. So if you want to learn, I post long form videos on YouTube, so that's cool. And then if you want to reach out, you have any specific question, why is this happening, or can you quickly review this, or even just see a little bit more on personal life, you can go on Instagram.
And then just DM you through your Instagram
Yeah,
profile
just send me
as
a quick
well.
message. Manel, came from the podcast eCommerce Edge, have this thing. What would you do? I
Help
just
me.
send a quick
Help me.
voice note.
Help me.
I'll try to.
I love it. I love it. Now, look, as we do come down to the end of our time together, now's where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question. Any question you like, can be personal or professional. So, Mr. Manel Gomez, what is your question for me today?
This is good. This is good, man. It was a good conversation. I would say, because I'm really interested in learning from you. I would say completely outside of advertising, what are the both trends and highest leverage opportunities in e-commerce in 2025? So let's say you're running your ads, you're being successful, you fail sometimes, there are some bad months, but you're still making it. Not as good as it used to be, more challenging. But what are the things, I don't know, in team structure or logistics or things that I really am not an expert? What are the essential ones for a year like now, seeing how the market is and where we're going?
The number one opportunity that I'm seeing, particularly D2C brands continue to ignore, is the strategic wholesale opportunity. Because as CAC continues to rise, a lot of these D2C brands, they thought D2C was business model. D2C is a channel. It's not a business model. And this is what they neglect. And even the D2C darlings, like Allbirds, like Casper, like 8Sleep, like Nike even, during COVID, who went largely D2C. And in fact, in the case of Allbirds and a few others, they said, we will not sell on their website. It literally says, we do not sell wholesale. We sell direct to the consumer. We don't have the opportunity for you to establish a wholesale account with us. Now that Allbirds has just about gone bankrupt, their share price is down almost 99% from its peak. Now, as a last ditch effort to save themselves, they're opening up strategic wholesale. They've appointed master distributors in Europe, for example, and they're going full bore into strategic wholesale, because no matter how much money you spend as a D2C brand, I don't care how much money you have to spend. There are certain markets, certain segments, certain customer groups that you will never be able to touch because they have a certain channel or a certain supplier that they choose to buy those things through. And unless you make your products available in those channels where they shop, you will never be able to get to them through a D2C channel because they don't shop
That's
D2C.
right.
And so the thing I think, and even Nike has had to go back to Amazon with their tail between their legs. They've had to go back to their retail partners that they killed off, a whole bunch of retail accounts, wholesale/retail accounts. Now they're going back cap in hand and apologizing and say, hey, actually, you're really important to us. You're really strategic to us. Let's reestablish our wholesale accounts. Let's be partners. Let's be friends. Sorry, we didn't mean to try to kill you, but we really did. And so these are the types of conversations I'm having every single day. And it's these D2C brands, they really don't know where to start when it comes to wholesale. They don't know what it takes. It's a totally different, even just the logistics piece, going from shipping an individual parcel to moving to cartons, pallets, and containers. It's a different kettle of fish. And the way that you service those customers and the way that you have to manage quote requests and the way that you have to have account managers and the way that it's all about relationship building, right? It's all about relationship building. And they're used to being able to do push marketing at scale on the D2C side of their business. And they might be experts at that, but they are not necessarily experts in two-way relationship and partnership building. And they will have to become expert at that to exploit that opportunity.
Love that. Super nice. Partnership. I've got a client now that's in a wholesale fair in Miami. So they flew from Spain to Miami just to get there and see what's going on. What are the brands that are there and meet people. All the time they were like, we're here to meet people. We want to see what they're doing, talk to people, this and that. And so it even just amplifies the effectiveness of advertising.
But not only that, but it also helps you with economies of scale so that even on your D2C side of your business, you get better net margins. Obviously, if you manufacture 5 times as much as you're manufacturing today, and let's say you're working with a contract manufacturer, you're going to get better rates. So that means your net margin, right? And a lot of D2C brands, when they come to me, they say, but Jason, my margins are going to be way worse for wholesale. And I'm like, hang on a second. Let's take the money that you're spending on customer acquisition and retention and all the activities you're doing direct to consumer today. Your net margin will probably end up being quite similar in strategic wholesale because the cost to you acquire those customers once and they have a massively inflated LTV, AOV, everything goes through the roof. And the net margins I'm seeing today in D2C versus strategic wholesale, the net is almost always very similar.
Amazing to consider.
Yes. Listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you sharing your time with me today and being a guest mentor on the Commerce Edge. I can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend. If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.